Ladies and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here. ETM Hotel, Rennie Shawn, welcome in peace. My name is Shawn. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to this evening show. Science with Shawn, yep, back at it again. Second show today. I'm not going to hold y'all up too much longer. I'm going to get straight to the business. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to send something out, and then we will get cracking. I don't know if we have anybody in the chat. We do. What up, DC? What up, New? What up, Chavis? Too Smooth 71. What up, Vasa? Yeah, help me out. Y'all like the show, share the show. I know y'all probably got other stuff going on, but you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to give y'all as much information as I can as possible. I wanna kind of make it right. What I mean by making it right is I actually talked about this before. Well, I didn't talk about it to everybody here. It was in a back chat, and I actually shared an article with in the pseudo killers, and it was referring to Minks and how CoVid19 has taken over like mink farms. And at the time, you know what I'm saying, I really didn't think nothing of it. But then as more data began to come out and things of that nature, I kind of left it lingering in the back of my head, but really didn't hone in on putting 2 and 2 together until recently when they started talking about the new variant. So hypothesizing, could the new variant be due to this infestation or spread of COVID-19 through these minks? Could this variant come from, mutating out of them or whatnot, right? So it was something to think about. Again, you know me, all the links to anything that I share today will be in the description, and we'll go. We'll talk about that now. Old Vincent, Mr. Twill himself, he actually did a show on this about a month ago. And at the time, I didn't watch it at the time. I did not. But something was like, yo, you need to go back and check some stuff out and pull that up, because that's going to be reliable to tonight's conversation. So I was just digging, going through some articles and just looking at some recent news and things of that nature. And I was like, all right, let me go back to this mink. Instead of me going back to this mink in private, I decided to go back to this mink in public. So again, like the show, share the show. And we finna get into what I'm talking about. Follow me. Now I'm hypothesizing here. I'm gonna walk y'all through. Where I'm at with this, right? Just watch. Now, I'm already familiar with the Minks situation, but I know more data has come out about the mink. I know this for a fact. So, I'm like, all right, let me just go live and talk about it and see if anybody want to join the discussion, and then we'll kind of elaborate. So here we go. And we're gonna have a quick little class here. All right, so let's go with this. This article was written December 23rd. This article was written November 28th. This article was published December 23rd. Let me switch that and that. This article dropped today. Let me switch that with that, and let me go right here. Boom. This article was written November 4th. This article came out November 3rd. So I got the 3rd, 4th, 8th. 28th. December 23rd. December 23rd. Today. All right. So let's go here. Now, I'm not going to hit on this too much, but I do have this here for a reason. And you'll see the reason in a minute. All right. You can look at it. It look all weird. Got some big words in it. You know what I'm saying? Mutation host virus. Right? Who writing like this? This is not, how English write, but there's some English words in here and all of that. Right? So, it's like Dutch. Denmark. See? This is where that's coming from. So everybody's familiar with it. This Denmark. Why is this relevant? We're going to find out. Here we go. Denmark plans to cull its mink population after coronavirus mutation spreads to humans. Think about this. The mutation spreads to humans. It's Denmark now. Denmark will cull its mink population of up to 17 million after mutation of the coronavirus found in the animal spread to humans, the Prime Minister said on Wednesday. Health authorities found the virus strands in humans and in mink showed decreased sensitivity against antibodies, potentially lowering the efficacy of future vaccines, Prime Minister said. We have a great responsibility towards our population, but with this mutation that has now been found, we have an even greater responsibility for the rest of the world as well, Frankenthal told a news conference. The findings, which have been shared with the WHO or WHO, and the European Center of Disease Prevention and Control, were based on laboratory tests by the State Serum Institute, the Danish authority dealing with infectious disease. The head of WHO Emergencies Program, Mike Ryan, called on Friday a full-scale scientific investigation of the complex issues of humans outside China infecting mink, which in turn transmitted the virus back to humans. I'm going to say this again, but I'm going to slow it down. Mike Ryan called on Friday for full-scale scientific investigation of the complex issue of humans outside China infecting mink, which in turn transmitted the virus back to humans. So humans infected minks. Minks now are infecting humans. We all understand that, right? Cool. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I like the show, share the show. I see we got some people in the building, so I appreciate it. All right, so there we go. Now, we have been informed by Denmark of a number of persons infected with coronavirus from mink with some genetic changes in the virus, who said in a statement emailed in Reuters in Geneva. The Danish authorities are investigating the epidemiological and virological significance of these findings. Authorities in Denmark said 5 cases of the new virus strand had been recorded on mink farms and 12 cases in humans, and that there were between 15 million and 17 million mink in the country. Outbreaks at mink farmers have persisted in the Nordic country, the world's largest producer of mink furs, despite repeated efforts to cull infected animals since June. All right. Outbreaks at the mink farm. All right, so my bad. Denmark's police, army, and home guard will be deployed up to speed of culling process. Not to bore you, this article will be in the chat, so now we know a destination. Denmark, the Danish mink farms. All right. Humans infected minks, minks infected humans. So now the virus is mutated. It had went from humans to animals back to humans. So now the mink will the mink, the virus will mutate in the mink, causing a new variant. Not strain, new variant. Stick with this with me now. All right. So this was published on the 4th. 24 days later, a COVID outbreak reporting on Oregon mink farm. 24 days later, an outbreak on American soil regarding the mink farm. Follow me. An Oregon mink farm has reported an outbreak of COVID-19 among animals and staff. The State's Journal reports the farm has been placed under quarantine, meaning no animals or animal products can leave the farm. The state has not said where the farm is located, how many animals the farm has, when the farmer reported the illness, or when the animals were tested. 10 samples from mink have come back positive for SARS-CoV-2, the animal virus linked to COVID-19 in humans, ODA said. The farm also is reporting cases of COVID-19 in staff. Hold on, let me get something to drink. All right. Now, the Oregon Department of Agriculture recommended the farm and the staff self-isolate. Outbreaks in the farm mink have been reported in several states and countries. Earlier this month, Denmark announced it would kill all 17 million of the mink raised. Thereafter, confirmation that 12 people had been infected with a mutated strand of the COVID-19 that has spread from mink to humans. We got to be careful with strand because all they talking about is a variant. So that's that. All right. December 23rd. What we saying here, we basically about a month, right? A month later. Walk with me now. Like again, like the show, share the show, and we here to learn. I understand some people like to keep it with the mess, joke around, play, or maybe there's another show on or something like that that you might be interested in. I get it. But I appreciate everybody rocking with me consistently. 9 countries have now reported outbreaks on mink farms. You have one in Denmark, among the Danish. You have one in Oregon a month ago. Now you have 9 countries reporting outbreaks. You see the invisible water we're fighting? I'm trying to get y'all to walk with me. We went with one, then another one popped up, and then several more. Since early this summer, Keith Polson, the director of Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, was worried about mink. Polson Lab is part of the national network of veterinarian labs that work on animal disease, and they have been watching COVID-19 very carefully. Polson told me, in Europe, mink on fur farms were catching COVID-19, and they seem to be able to pass it back to people. The Netherlands had an outbreak in April. The Danish mink farms quickly followed in June. By October, the situation was gruesome. Hundreds of mink farms in Denmark and the Netherlands had COVID-19 cases, and 2 farms in Utah have reported the first in U.S. cases in mink. They don't even include Oregon. Since then, the global mink situation has significantly worsened. To date, COVID-19 has been found on mink farms in a total of 9 countries, including Spain, Italy, Lithuania, Sweden, Greece, and just 2 weeks ago, Canada. For nearly a year, the coronavirus has spread with a little check through the places where humans live and work. But the growth of the pandemic among mink poses additional threats. It gives the virus a chance to pass from an environment humans are ostensibly control to one that they don't. Now, and as it spreads among the mink and between minks and humans, between humans and humans, it can mutate. It already has. One mink associated variant bears the same mutation as the corona variant, now spreading rapidly in the United Kingdom. Now, remember, this is a month later. We're talking about now, and we're talking about this variant. In the United Kingdom, each time such changes happen, there's a risk the virus changes in a way that could make it more dangerous and prolong the pandemic. Around 11 a.m. on Friday, October, Poston got the call that he was expecting months. Making the Medford was sick, and it looked like a lot like COVID. Medford, a city of just about 4,000 people in northern central Wisconsin, used to call itself the mink capital of the world. There, a person can live in the neighborhood of mink capital Terrace on a road called Mink Drive. A generation ago, Medford girl could have aspired to be crowned Mink Princess USA in the annual Medford Mink Festival. Though the United States mink industry has shrunk along with the Americans' wanting appetites for fur coats and the festival is no more, Wisconsin is still the country's biggest producer of mink pelts, and Medford is still a mink town. There are 12 mink ranches in the area within 5 miles of one another, and the coronavirus has now reached 2 of them. Once the coronavirus finds mink, it works fast. When Polson picked up the phone, the veterinarian found a Medford area mink ranches told him that several hundred mink had already died. Plus, some people on the ranch had COVID-like symptoms. I think we need to test them, the vet said. By 11:30, Polson was driving a van 250 miles upstate. By the time he arrived at the ranch at 3:30 p.m., several hundred more mink had died. Mink are extremely vulnerable to respiratory disease. Like people, they get seasonal respiratory issues. They're also prone to pneumonia. Respiratory viruses replicate so readily in minks and their muscle-led relatives, ferrets, most notably, that the animals are often used to study human illness. So, mink can get the coronavirus, and they can get it from people. As cases in humans rose precipitously in Wisconsin this fall. Poston and the staff figured it was just a matter of time before someone on the mink farm sneezed into the mink population. So did the local veterinarians. We were just waiting. John Easley, a mink specialist who serves as a veterinarian for the mink ranches in southern Wisconsin. Both mink and human cells have specific receptors that allow the virus to attach to them, which made mink a greater concern than other farmed animals, including Wisconsin's immense dairy cow population, he says. Cows don't allow the virus to enter their cells quite as easy. They do get infected, but the virus just doesn't replicate very well in their system. Y'all remember 6 months, 7 months ago, they talked about the cows, right? How maybe cows or maybe horses or something like that could save us during this pandemic, right? You remember that, right? Okay, moving on. Farming can prove to provide absolute excellent conditions for the virus to be fruitful and multiply. In addition to all the ways a muscle-led physiology makes them similar, predisposed to the malady as humans, mink on farms are housed closely together. Social distancing is out of the question, and transmission is all but guaranteed. As of December the 3rd, a total of 644 people associated with mink farms had contracted COVID-19 since June, along with another 338 people who worked in mink pelting, according to the WHO. Reported that came out before the news of Canada's outbreak, where an additional 8 people on mink farms had been sickened. In the mid-November, a virologist at Danish health authority told Nature that COVID-19 mutation believed to have originated in mink has shown up to 300 times in people in Denmark. Denmark, the world's largest mink exporter, has seen arguably the worst of the species leaping horror show. In early November, the country ordered a complete cull of the farm mink population. Even so, by the beginning of December, 289 mink farms in northern Denmark had reported outbreaks. The bodies of thousands of cold mink buried in shallow graves then proceeded to ferment. Gases built up in their bodies, propelling them to rise luridly from the ground. The Danish mink outbreak also birthed a new strand. We ain't gonna say new strand. We're gonna say variant until we have evidence of an actual new strand. The coronavirus responsible for COVID-19. The variant has mutations in spike. You see how it can go back, new strand, then it goes to variant. The variant has mutations in spike protein, which the virus uses to invade host cells and has been named Cluster 5. It infected at least a dozen people associated with the mink farms in northern Denmark from August to September. Such mutations can affect the spread of the virus among humans. One known as D614G emerged in February and became the dominant strand of COVID-19 globally, perhaps because it traveled more easily among humans. The UK variant emerged more recently. See how I go back to variant? Emerged more recently and has spread quickly as well. Now they're talking about this new variant. All right. It's not yet clear whether the mutation is responsible for the speed or coincidence with it. The variant shares a mutation with one found in minks. A missing bit of genetic code helps these viruses guard against antibodies that otherwise can fight back. Researchers initially speculate that mutations in the mink variant could make a vaccine less effective. But the little information available so far in human-to-human transmission suggests that these particle variants aren't more infectious or more deadly and won't interfere with the vaccine. That's what we know. So that's pretty much the end. We're getting close to the end of the article. I'm not going to bore us to death with all the other aspects of it. We know exactly where we're going and what we're dealing with. All right. That was the 23rd. This is the 23rd as well. This is pretty much saying the same thing. All right, just coming from a different angle, and it's not so long. This article is actually better than this one. But here we go. Today, Oregon mink trapped in Wild West tests positive for coronavirus, raising fears of mutant viral strand. There we go with that word again, strand. We got to be real careful. All right, I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to get to this. An Oregon mink trapped in the Wild West test positive for coronavirus this month, the Oregon Department of Agriculture announced Wednesday. The mink was captured December 13th near an Oregon mink farm that is under quarantine after a number of COVID-19 outbreaks there. State and federal wildlife officials believe the trapped mink had recently escaped from the farm. There's no evidence that SARS-CoV-2 is circulating or has been established in the wild, ODA State Veterinary Dr. Ryan Schultz said in a statement. Several trapped animals from different species were sampled, and all others were negative. Still, we are taking this situation very seriously and continue to survey and trap near the farm. All right, so that's good. They setting up traps. They trying to trap and test every animal. Now the animals may, it ain't like they trying to kill the animals and nothing like that. They are trapping to test. And that's a good thing for us because we ain't got to deal with the rest of that, right? They trapping the test. We need to know. We want all the data. We want all the data. All right. So that's that article. And you can go on down. That's pretty much the end of that. So now let's get to the meat and potatoes.
Make you sick. In the impression is they have COVID, they've had a contact, they're having symptoms, and their response is, well, I refuse to get tested because if I'm positive, I won't be allowed to go to work. You'll take away my freedom to do what I want to do. So testing percent rates are close to 50% in the Dakotas, meaning that the number of cases is well above 100,000. That's confirmed.
Yes, that's a good point.
You know,
yeah. I wonder how many more cases there are. Do you think it's maybe as much as tenfold higher?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it can't, you know, we can't be getting 1 million a day. I don't think that's, you know, realistic. There's a lot of, there's a lot of cases. It's, you know, and maybe I'll jump into this before my quotation, but, you know, if you look at the number of deaths per day, the number of deaths per day are over 1,000. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people say, oh, well, that's about half of the peak we got to back in April when things were really bad. But remember, in April, half of those deaths were in nursing homes. So we're seeing, you know, the nursing homes are now protected. We're not seeing a lot of deaths in nursing home residents, but we're basically seeing the same number of deaths per day in the non-nursing home population as we were seeing back during the height. So we are clearly seeing more cases per day than we ever saw before. We're seeing the same number of non-nursing home deaths per day, and the numbers are rising just about everywhere.
How is it here in the New York area, Daniel?
We're now consistently over 1,000 new hospitalizations every day.
Wow.
And again, that's an underestimate, as I've shared. We have a lot of individuals that we see, that we diagnose, who are hypoxic, who we recommend they go to the hospital, but their response is no, thank you. They're afraid to go to the hospital. They're afraid they're going to be locked in isolation. Their loved ones won't see them. They'll die alone. So yeah, the number of people who meet hospital admission criteria is even more than the over 1,000 we're admitting per day in New York.
Are you reaching capacity at all, Daniel?
We are not. We are actually, at this point, we have plenty of capacity. You know, maybe to reassure people, I feel like now we're doing a really good job able to put people in the hospital, keep them safe. You know, iPads, iPhones, video chats. We're trying to make the experience of being in the hospital a safe experience and not what it used to be. So don't be scared to come to the hospital. There's things we can do in the hospital. We can give you oxygen. We can monitor you, steroids, anticoagulation, and even escalating care as need be. So, you know, if you're sick enough to be in the hospital, have that conversation and consider actually going to the hospital. Let me start off.
What's the quote, Daniel?
Yeah, my quote. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And this is something I think I remember, if my memory serves me correctly, being up on the wall at my grandmother's house as a child. Mm-hmm. This was definitely one of her themes. These are tough times, and they're predicted to get tougher. So, you know, it's a time for us all to kind of work together and support each other and get through. You know, it's going to be a tough, I think, next 6 months. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, which we'll be talking about. But that is a quote from Karl Paul Reinhard Niebuhr. Let's get into a little bit of the news. I'm going to sort of sprinkle some patient updates as we go. There was some concerning information in the MMWR, and this was about pregnant women. Right, and this brings me back to March when I'm live on the air at CNN fixing my bow tie, you know, and they're about to ask me about Trump and testing, and then I think Poppy Harlow jumps in with, "So, Dr. Griffin, tell us about pregnant women and COVID." So I took a deep breath and said, "We know nothing," and you know, at that point we didn't know a lot. There weren't any concerning signals, and still, you know, I'm going to give this information, but I'm also going to couch it in the context. So the MMWR did report that there is a slightly higher rate of preterm births in infected women. They also report that pregnant women with COVID-19 were about 3 times more likely to end up going to the ICU than a non-pregnant woman, about 3 times more likely to end up on a ventilator, and about 50% more likely to die than a non-pregnant woman infected with COVID-19. This is, you know, roughly matched for age and the rest. But I want to put that in context. These are younger individuals who tend to be pregnant, right? You know, 20s, 30s. These are women They tend to be healthier than the rest of the population. So even though these numbers, threefold, 50%, sound frightening, the number of deaths in pregnant women, the number of preterm births is still very low.
Okay.
But just full disclosure there to let people know that there is a little bit of a signal. We already touched a little bit on case numbers, and yeah, the numbers are rising just about everywhere. I was just looking at a map earlier, like where they're not reporting rises in numbers, and those are places where, if you look at the map, talking to colleagues, are places where a lot of individuals are actually refusing to be tested. I'm I'm optimistic actually, now that sort of this political event is passing, that there won't be as much of a political aspect to testing, and hopefully people will sort of embrace testing so we can know who's infected so that we don't spread it to our loved ones. Just, if you're going to spread it to someone, you're going to spread it to someone that you spend time with. You're not going to spread it to someone that you don't spend time with. So, your testing and finding out if you are infected is really your way of looking out for your community and the people that you spend time with. Some issues with testing. I just retweeted something by Michael Mina about a New York Times article where they were, again, the failure of the rapid tests. And I actually said the headline was wrong. The article was fine. They basically were pointing out rapid tests are very good. And high 90s sensitivity at picking up people who are infectious, who are acutely ill with COVID. But once the viral level has dropped down to CT values in the 30s, low RNA levels, they turn negative, which is actually appropriate. So they're not over-diagnosing people with low levels of viral RNA. So we're rolling out a lot of different modalities now. The rapid testing are still not at the lick-a-stick level, but I'm going to be on a conference call Tuesday afternoon with Michael Mina and Chris Syed and some other folks. So I just shot an email out to find out where are we with those lick-a-sticks. We're working on it, and yeah, it's not happening quickly, but we're still pushing. What about treatment updates? Let's go through this in the context of our framework. And so, I do want to talk about, I think it's important that we spend time as we go through this. There are regularly updated guidelines from the ID Society of America and actually the NIH. And these are really nice resources for everyone. I recommend clinicians, if you have trouble sleeping, you've got a little bit of extra time. Not only do they give you sort of a one-liner on what the recommendation is, but a lot of them give you links to the different articles and nice overviews, nice summaries of what the articles show. So let's go through a little bit. And I just did a talk this morning for the physicians at the Catholic hospitals here. And so that was enjoyable. But we'll start off with our pre-exposure period. And there's not a lot new here, right? This is the time when we've yet to be exposed. We want to avoid being exposed. Unfortunately, 100,000 new cases a day in the US or more. We're not doing as well in this period as we can, but this is the ideal area. The best way to prevent someone from getting sick with COVID is prevent them from getting infected with COVID. So the masks, distancing, ventilation, cleaning, hygiene, go to the doctor while you can and get your other existing medical problems optimized. And as mentioned, this is maybe the time when the vitamin D, the vitamin C, the zinc, other things like that make a difference. Now on this front, we have another paper, and this is actually, I heard you, the other TWIV co-host, discussing the Great Barrington Declaration. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed that. But one of the things that they talk about there is vulnerable populations. Mm-hmm. And so our paper that I think I've mentioned in the past has been accepted to the CDC journal Emerging Infectious Diseases. And our paper is vulnerable populations at long-term care facilities can be protected from COVID-19 infection with a regular testing and screening strategy coupled with the use of other infection control measures. This is the whole, let's put the entire article in one, sentence, make it the title. Not to read anymore. But this was something actually that I've been working on for a while now, months now, with Scott Shimatsu, Ariel Johnson, and Ethan Burke at United Health Group. And this is I'll tweet this out there and share it once it actually is available online. But this was an example where we looked at a skilled nursing facility in Pennsylvania. The residents were tested twice a week. The staff got daily testing. And they also got symptom screening, and they were, encouraged to call in sick if they didn't feel well. So, don't come in and tell us you're sick on a symptom screen. Just stay home till you feel better, and then you'll have to have a negative test before you come in. And we were able to identify an infected staff member before they spread it, and we saw about a 17-fold fewer number of cases in this facility than in the neighboring facilities. So, important because, as I mentioned, the most vulnerable of all our populations tends to be these older adults, told not to use the word elderly, older adults who are in these facilities with medical problems. So you can keep these people safe. And we talk a lot about testing. This was a real life example of using testing and other mitigation strategies to keep these individuals safe. And, there were 2 infections during this period of time from June through the beginning of September. And unfortunately, those 2 individuals died. The mortality is very high for people in nursing homes that get infected. Then we move into the incubation period, and we had a lot of discussions about this lately because there was a bit of an exposure in one of the work settings where I am. And this is, again, you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. And remember, that's not a golden, it's not like there's a barrier. There's not a piece of plexiglass at 6 feet, and the alarm doesn't go off at, 14 minutes and 59 seconds. It's a moving thing. It's like gravity. And people still don't want this to be true. So here I'll throw in an entertaining story from Nashville. And this is, the daughter is off at university, but she's coming home. But right before she comes home, she, and the quote was, she went someplace she shouldn't have gone. And she comes home and she's happy. Now she's home with the family. But after she's been home about 4 days, she starts to feel not so well, goes, gets a test, a few days go by, and it turns out she tests positive. So now she's sick, she's not doing well, but she's home with the family. And it's really the brother who's annoyed, right? Your older sister's off at college, siblings don't always get along particularly well. But now the brother's really upset because she's home. And there's that 10-day period of time, right, until she stops being infectious. And his quarantine stops at the end of that 10-day period. And then he's got to quarantine for 14 days after those. And then he's got to get a test. And down where he is in Nashville, there's no virtual school. He's basically missing school. And when he goes back, he's got to make up all his assignments. So it's just important, this clock, right? If you're, he's stuck at home, he has nowhere else to go. He can't leave the exposure place. And so, so he's got 10 days plus 14. And then what I'm saying, he's really going to hate his sister if on day 14 he tests positive and then has to add another 10 to his prison sentence. This is also during the phase, and this I'm going to say, this is good news, right? This is the viral symptom phase. I've talked a little bit about monoclonals, but now the interim analysis of BLAZE-1 was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. SARS-CoV-2 neutralizing antibody, LY-CoV555 in outpatients with COVID-19. And actually, physicians, actually, even if you're not a physician, New England Journal, it's open access. It's worth taking a look. But let me just sort of, pull out the pearl. So this was a publication of a scheduled interim analysis of this ongoing phase 2 trial. And the primary outcome was the change in viral load at day 11, right? This is not an efficacy trial. It's just looking at the impact on, we'll say, a surrogate marker, something that we can track. But even though it's not a phase 3 efficacy trial, people were looking, and my eye always goes to patient outcomes. How are the patient doing? Is there any signal that this therapy will impact patient outcomes? And there was actually a clear statistically significant decrease in the viral load with the high dose treatment, p-value 0.02. But what I really liked was that there was a reduction in patients needing to go to the hospital or the ER. There was a 75% reduction in the need for hospitalizations, hospital visits, in patients that receive the monoclonal antibody therapy. We mentioned before that Regeneron had shown about a 72% reduction, similar outcomes. So this is actually what is now, people have probably heard, and I was checking the news feeds right before I record to find out if the EUAs have gone through. But these two therapies, the Regeneron therapy and the Eli Lilly therapy, are actually being reviewed by the FDA for potential EUA. And we'll see what happens with that.
So these are given to recently diagnosed patients, right? With mild disease. Are they in a particular risk group, or is it any age patient for this trial?
Yeah, the EUA requests are going to be for individuals 65 or older who have at least one risk factor. And the reason this is put forth is, you're looking at a population that you say, okay, this has about a 30% or higher likelihood of progressing to require hospitalization. These therapies, we're doing it through a home infusion company. So if a person tests positive, someone will go out to their home that day, the day that the test comes back positive. We're actually looking at our map to make sure we have infusion centers throughout the country for coverage. Someone will come to the home, they'll put an IV in. It ultimately can be done in 15 minutes, the infusion. Right now it's a 45-minute to hour infusion, and then you are observed to make sure you don't react to this. The reactions have been really minimal. About 2% of people have a little bit of itch.
Hey, Parasites Without Borders will cover that.
So a lot of listeners have emailed to ask what's going on with the minks in Denmark.
Yes,
so
going Holland.
I did some sleuthing, and there's a Reuters article, and many others. There's a ProMed mail summary, but a listener who I think is in Denmark sent a series of emails.
No, you're right.
And so the first one he sent was an official statement from the State Serum Institute. That's sort of the CDC equivalent in Denmark. And so I translated it into English, and the translation worked pretty well. But the bottom line here is that, we talked months ago about this fact that SARS-CoV-2 is infecting mink in Europe. Netherlands is the other country, and others. And there was evidence that it might be going back into people from mink. And so now this statement says, as of November 2nd, SARS-CoV-2 infection has been found on 191 mink farms in Denmark. And, as the virus propagates through mink, you have a diversification of the genome, and you have accumulation of variants that you don't see in people. This is a different host. Whether these are actually selected or just arise and propagate, we don't know yet, but it's not surprising. And one of the concerns is that some of the changes in the spike glycoprotein gene make for a reduced reactivity with antibody. And I mean, the issue here is that they do a lot of mink raising, right, for minks, for fur, and they're thinking of culling the millions of minks so that there won't be a production next year. Because if you make new mink if you breed new mink, they'll be susceptible to infection, and that will propagate this over and over again.
And it's 17 million mink being raised on fur farms in Denmark. So it's
a big deal.
Big deal.
So here's some information on the changes. Among the variants, 7 different mutations have been seen in spike, and examples of up to 4 different changes in spike in the same virus. One virus with 4 changes has been detected in 5 North Jutland farms and in 12 patient samples, of which 4 with direct connection to 3 of these farms. Okay, so these are kind of markers for the virus, and you can see those going into people. Preliminary studies suggest that this virus exhibits decreased susceptibility to neutralizing antibodies from multiple individuals with a history of infection. So this has been done in the lab in cell culture. So I don't know how extensive the difference is and whether it would be relevant or not. So I'm sure those data will be coming out. So then I wrote Anders Fomsgaard. I met Anders when I visited Denmark. Here, for those of you watching, this is Anders here. He's a character. He's a virologist. He wrote a book called "It's Just a Virus." It's in Danish. That's Det bare een virus. Okay, so I emailed him, and he immediately emailed me back, and he said, 3 issues are worrying us. Epidemic in mink, exponentially increasing with 2 to 3 new farms every day, spreading geographically. Not stop until all 1,200 farms have been infected. Control measures don't work or don't seem to work. They're increasing reservoirs. These increasing reservoirs of virus are infecting people. More than half of the infections in people in North Jutland are with different mink variants. And we are sequencing a lot of virus routinely from humans and minks, and would never have discovered this if not sequence. As I said, he's a character. On top of this, which is written in caps, and for some reason, this aspect is the only one people have heard. We have tested 2 mink variants after culturing, sequencing before, during, and after culture for sensitivity to antisera from 10 convalescent patients. And one of the variants with 4 mink unique mutations in the spike were less sensitive to neutralization by these sera compared to virus without the same combination of mutations, which demonstrates the possibility of these mutating viruses from the animals to become less sensitive to antibodies, for example, after a spike-based vaccine, perhaps in capital letters. And then he says, we will not accept the risk from these 3 points. We are PCR screening people for infection by mink variants suspected to influence neutralization, to intensify contact tracing, interrupt chains of transmission. I think the variants will disappear then if it is an acute virus, not a chronic one. Sequences will be put on GISAID and more information posted and published and told to all that like to know as fast as we can. Anders.
So the bottom line is that minks get infected, and they apparently infect each other.
Yeah, big time.
That humans and mink can pass it back and forth.
Right.
Though it wasn't clear to me how you establish directionality in this case. You find what they are calling mink variants in both humans and mink. And this is the only circumstance under which those variants show up. And I don't know what evidence there is that the variants actually arose in the mink, but that's their conclusion, is the variants probably due to, as you said, Vincent, selection in the mink are arising in the mink, then winding up in humans. And they may actually have some properties that are different in a fashion that could be of concern. So, man, get rid of those mink, because you don't want this to give any further opportunity to establish itself in humans. And this goes back to, must have been 585, I think, when we had our first discussion with Ralph Barrick, and the question came up, could there be spillback into an animal reservoir from humans? Bingo, here it is.
And another important point here from the economic standpoint is that Denmark, Denmark is the leading producer of mink furs now, although they're not exactly high fashion. A lot of places, this is not the 70s, but 17 million mink, this is a big business, but it was also a doomed business. My understanding is that they were scheduled to shut this all down just from the legally humanitarian reasons. Correct. They had passed a law that they were going to stop mink farming in Denmark next year. I think it was real soon. So these businesses were going to be going out of business real soon anyway, and now seems like a great time.
So the same thing has happened in Holland. I have a friend who works over there in Bilthoven. They're NIH. Her name is Joke van de Giesen. And she used to work on trichinella, and then she worked on bird flu, and now she's working on mink SARS-CoV-2. And she said Holland just agreed to shut the whole thing down. So I think that's what you're going to see, actually.
So what is it about mink? We decided the last time we discussed this that these are fancy ferrets, right?
Yes, that's what Ralph said. Yeah,
yeah, they're a weasel, and we know you can infect ferrets in the lab. That's kind of a lab model people have been using a lot. We know cats can get infected. Sure. We know dogs can get infected, but not as easily as cats, probably.
True.
So this seems like something that does really well in small carnivores.
Well,
Here's the
ferrets
thing.
are actually more related to dogs than they are cats.
But
Are they?
here's the thing. You got tens of thousands of mink all shoved together on a farm.
Yes,
yeah.
That's the issue,
That's
right?
the issue.
If there were
They're
just
not social distancing.
they're not
Right.
They're not wearing masks.
Yes.
It's
No,
like
that's
all
a
these
really
minks,
cute image. The minks with the masks on.
all these minks are at a bar.
Yes.
No, I think
So-
that the high density, just like pigs and chickens for influenza viruses, you bring all those
Yeah.
animals together and then you put
It's a
people in the mix.
monoculture. Yeah, sure.
And the other thing, if it's like ferrets, one of the things with the ferret model is that they grow the virus very nicely, but they don't get sick, right? So it's not killing them. So these are your asymptomatic people hanging at the bar. They're got 17 million mink and they're transferred it.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
to
get the
extend
analogy.
the bar metaphor, I think ferrets are probably born drunk, right?
Yeah, but I still don't get the analogy that Alan's trying to make, because bats harbor this virus all the time and they don't get
Right.
sick. So
Right?
and we get sick all
No,
the
I'm
time.
saying that makes them a very good reservoir.
Oh, okay.
If it killed them, they wouldn't be such a great reservoir.
Right. So like actually I think Vincent once said that this was not that important. Or he wasn't worried
right
about
now.
this.
I'm not worried because, as you'll see, as I will say in a moment. All right. So then I got another email from the Danish correspondent yesterday. The Danish Prime Minister, Minister of Health Science, head of SSI, and others just held a press conference. Some interesting points. And point 3, everybody in the region, 280,000 people are going to be tested, which is a logistical challenge. They say, I think it represents the entire PCR capacity of Denmark. We're already doing 10% of the populations per week, which is a lot. And all positive samples will be sequenced. And then they have not seen this variant for over a month.
Coming
Would this
from a
variant
government
mean the one
official,
that
not the man
Showed
who's
the
in the
cell
lab.
culture resistance to antibody.
Yes, so they haven't seen it in over a month, which doesn't mean it's not there, of course, but I think
Right.
that's better than saying it's in all these people, right? So it seems to me that if you can interrupt the chain of transmission, it may be that this virus does not do well in larger human populations, right?
I was going to say there may be that variation may come at a fitness cost, maybe in humans or whatever.
Or maybe you just haven't seen enough people yet.
Yeah, and it hasn't been seen anywhere else in the world. They say the combination mutation has not been seen in any other parts of the world, which doesn't mean that it cannot spread, of course. But that's why I said I'm not too worried yet, especially if they cull the mink and they can stop the transmission there. I think it's not an issue.
And we also have, statistics from Denmark. The virus is spreading there, but I don't think they've had a horribly high death rate or extraordinarily high rate of spread or anything else freakish that's been coming out of this. And yet a lot of people are getting infected from the mink. So if this is a problem, well, A, it's going to be fixed soon because in the sense of getting rid of all the mink, but B, why hasn't it happened yet? Right.
Well, I don't think that it's occurred that frequently, that early.
Right.
I think it just occurred, right? So
Yes.
you can't say the other point about why hasn't it happened already, because it's happening now,
Well,
right?
Right.
You have to have it. You have to give it a chance, right?
It has to. Yeah.
Right.
And so
You're
the key here is
you're a year into a pandemic. How many
Yes.
variants and how many tests are you going to do, considering the fact
Right.
you started off at time 0?
Well, if this mink farming is such a big business, then there must be a lot of workers. And so how are they doing?
Well,
Well,
they're the
that's
ones catching the virus.
Yeah,
So how are they doing in terms of their
That's
infection?
what I'm saying is that we haven't gotten reports of some horrible new version of COVID-19 that's been showing up in mink workers.
Right.
Yeah, when we talked about
But to
this,
Amy's point, we could be sitting on a powder keg.
No, you
But
just
the
don't know.
solution there is to get rid of the mink, and it's nice that we haven't seen this variant in a month,
Right.
so that's certainly a good
so they
sign.
get rid of the mink and then they're testing everyone and sequencing to see if
Yes.
these variants are around. And if they are, that's a problem. If not, it's better. I wanted to know, Dixon, is there mink farming in the U.S.?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Chinchilla farms. There's a whole bunch of related animal farms. But the wearing of fur, right, Amy, is a low priority for women's fashions nowadays.
It is,
And,
but I will say that a fur coat is the warmest thing that you could possibly ever put on your body. Having lived in
Just ask the
Montreal for
Minks.
5 years, I can attest to this.
Really, it's
Yeah,
warm.
too bad they don't shed their fur every year, so you can just collect the
No, it's
bad stuff.
It's warmer than down.
It's warmer than anything that you can imagine.
Yeah,
for
look
sure.
at where they live.
For sure.
I mean,
That's why.
they're
That's
active
why all
all
of our-
year long.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, this is obviously a evolving story. We will cover it. What do they say in the news? We'll cover it.
All the news is fit to print.
Right.
This is all the news is fit to
Another.
print.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Another interesting article in PNAS came out past week. It's an opinion piece, which I just wanted to run by because we've talked about this issue and we have an opinion. For now, it's unethical to use human challenge studies for SARS-CoV-2 vaccine development. For now. So their main point is that it will not accelerate vaccine development because we're already doing really well. And so the justification by the UK group, for example, is that it will accelerate development, but it's simply, and they take that apart here and they say that's simply not true. However, they do say that maybe in the future, if we have an antiviral, we could do these trials and then we'll treat people as soon as they get sick so they won't die in these challenge trials.
If you had a drug.
If you have a drug, but
You have a drug,
but
you've
in
got
my
no-
view, that takes away the value because you're not testing if the vaccine prevents disease, which is the primary endpoint for all
Yeah.
of the vaccine trials.
That's
right?
the current primary endpoint.
Yeah.
But I could see,
Might change, you
I
think?
could imagine a future where we have a couple of adequate vaccines that prevent disease, but maybe don't prevent infection. We've talked about that a lot. And that would be great. That'd be a huge improvement over where we are now, but it wouldn't be ideal because you'd like a vaccine that really prevents disease. And so we may find ourselves a year, 2 years from now in a situation where, okay, yeah, you got your vaccine, you're not going to get sick, but you could still be a carrier. So we've still got this spreading in the community and we don't have 100% vaccination rate. So you could still end up with people dying from COVID-19. We want to develop better vaccines, and if we've got good antivirals and we can understand the pathogenesis well enough to treat at the right times with the right things, then yeah, you could do a trial like this to accelerate development of better vaccines that might provide sterilizing immunity.
So it's also possible that when you use an infection as a test to see if the vaccine worked, you should use low dose, medium dose, and high dose exposure to virus, because the low dose may be totally warded off by the vaccine. It may be 100% protective at that level. And that might be typical super spreader levels of virus that are being given off. So it would still be useful, I think, to know whether or not you can overcome the threshold of the vaccine with a high enough virus load.
Well, I think that was part of the plan for these, to give people different doses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so remember, this episode actually came out before the rollout of the actual vaccine. So they turned the tide from the Minks to dealing with, you know what I'm saying, speaking about the vaccine and human challenge studies and so on and so forth. We can get into the bats, but like I said, the description is actually in the video. It's more about me wanting to get, 12 in this bill regarding the actual Minks, since more information has come about regarding the Minks. Let me see. Peace to Mazan, Bruce. Everybody else tuned in. People are not saying that. I see we got like a few more people in the building. Please like the show, share the show. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give it a few more minutes. If anybody got questions or comments, concerns, or, they want to deal with, they want to deal with something. Yo, that thing blew up and a dog and a dude was outside, yo. My bad. I was looking at an actual video footage from downtown today where, you know what I'm saying? Y'all might have seen it on CNN, but downtown, dude parked that RV and deliberately parked that RV near a building that he needed to park that building near to, destroy communications for AT&T. but also whatever else was in the area. Just so happened that actually somebody was outside when that thing exploded, walking their dog early that morning. I don't know if somebody was still in there. They haven't said anything about that. Right now, they're just putting a video out showing that it was a light complected male driving an RV, preferably probably European descent or Arab descent. They didn't say that either, but he looked like it. But back to the Minks, man. Oh, so yeah, there was 3 police officers who ended up evacuating people up out of the building. Particularly, I guess, when the explosion had taken place, so they're trying to get them some love right now. But yeah, man. Oh, there was 3 more. So it was a bunch of them. They just didn't put them out on the screen. All right, whatever. So what y'all think about that? Minks and contracting SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. Them contracting it from humans and then spreading it, giving it back to humans. What y'all think about that? What y'all think? Let me know. Questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, let me know. What's your spiel, if you got one or not? Facebook seemed to be, what I'm saying, acting crazy again. So I'm having to approve a lot of your comments, CK. It says, poor Minks, they could have helped them. Sounds like swine flu, sure does. This is scary. Once viruses start jumping species, we're in trouble. Well, viruses are going to always jump species. I asked about this a couple of days ago. It's crazy, but makes sense with the COVID being a zoonotic disease. Exactly. Earlier on, they told us that this disease was that. Mutations and adaptability of viruses can be harder to deal with. Absolutely. That's why they don't have a vaccine for HIV, because of how fast it mutates and bounces around. They most likely got COVID from us. Oh no, ain't no most likely. We just read it. The Minks got the virus from us. They got it from us. Straight up. They got it from us, and then in return, they gave it back to us. They got it from us and then flipped it and turned back to us. That ain't Second Avenue. Man, that's close to Hooters. That's close to, that's close to laser tag. Shit. My bad, y'all. Looking up. I got my eye on y'all and my eye on the other thing. The man and dog survived the blast. Crazy. Those mink farm workers are to blame for this. Yeah, I don't want to blame the mink farm workers or the mink. I mean, you can't stop something you can't see. You can't stop nothing you can't see. DC said probably dumb Trump supporters. They trapped in the farm. Well, I mean, if you got a mink farm, you know what I'm saying, CK? I don't even know if y'all can see her messages. Can y'all see CK messages? I see them. I don't know if y'all can. But yeah, with them being in the actual farms, you're containing them among them. You create an environment for them to live amongst themselves or with other mink. so you can you know, make hats, shoes, coats, you know, whatever you're gonna make. Yeah, you're free, but I'm having to approve every time all your comments. Yep. That dude, man, that dude with his dog was supposed to die. He was outside with his dog. He was supposed to die. He didn't die. Doing worse, Shawn. It's Shawn pseudos. Yeah, well, I can't combat the pseudos. It looks like I'm not gonna win. Me or anybody's, you know, are gonna beat pseudo. Seeing pseudos win every day, so appreciate the love, bro. But you know, we just try to stay forward and handle our business. Well, think about it. You thinking about the mink farms aren't the greatest, but what about the farm raised chicken and other animals that we tend to eat? Beef from cow, farm raised. The new genetic modified pig, they saying it's safer to eat than the other pig. I wonder why. Yeah. Yeah, it's effed up. But so let me see something else. Let me try something real quick. I mean, we really just didn't. We kind of brushed off the mink though, because I know I mentioned this about a few weeks ago, talked about it, but I didn't even think that, like, hey, think about that. So basically, you know, I'm hypothesizing until all the data is out. However, a lot of people are probably scientists are going to conclude, if not already conclude, you know, that this new variant is coming from them. The new variant that some people are calling the strain is coming from me. And you have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that all viruses are going to continue to mutate. It's what they do. They adapt. And when you're dealing with adaptation, you're dealing with two things. What two things are you dealing with when you're dealing with adaptation? My 8-year-old son had to answer this question in his science class. Minks, yeah, Pimp's got to go outside. What two things, y'all? What two things you got to deal with when you're talking about me? Nature's most wicked every time. Yep. But yeah, you talking about, you dealing with, when you're talking about adaptation, you're talking about environment and organisms. Always environment and organisms. So the temperature in those environments are important to those organisms. I see CK is here. What up?
Peace.
What's good?
I come through to give you some company. Everybody don't left you all by your lonesome on the panel.
Nah, it's all good. I rock out.
You know.
Sutek in the building. He just didn't hop in. And he got other things.
You can't be leaving Shawn hanging.
Nah, man. You know, them people, they got other stuff going on. Kofi somewhere, he was typing earlier. So tipping right, he busy, you know, he got his kids. Everybody pretty much rocking out. I wasn't gonna be too long on here. I just wanted to get back to the, you know, further the conversation on the Minks.
But that's crazy how we kind of started at the beginning of this year with it being from the bats and then the penguins, but they still haven't really quite figured out what the intermediary host is.
I think they can conclude that it's going, you know, we can conclude that it's going to come back to the main concern of what was stated earlier with the science. You know, as far as the pangolians and the bats, because that's what they were eating. They were in close contact with that. You know what I'm saying?
But all the stuff that we were reading earlier this year, it never really quite said that, that we can definitely prove that it came directly from them.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we got it, basically. They just knew that they had it. Like, okay, hey, the bats have it, and the bats giving it to the penguins, but we can't really demonstrate really like how did it get from them to us. So they still, I don't think they really quite 100% figured out what's that intermediate host that passed it to us initially.
Nah,
so it's gonna be conspiracy theories gone wild until they do.
Nah, I mean, I think a lot of people
speculate.
have got off of it. I think a lot of people have got off of it, but considering the data, the more prevalent data is, and the reason that I'm saying the more prevalent data is because, you know, when they did the independent research, the independent researchers who came out, you know, had stated that the pangolians, the wet market, you know what I mean, and the potential threat of it escaping the lab. They were concluding all of that to going back to the pangolians and the bats. As far as the Bruce, yes, it's killing them. It's killing them. Not only is it killing them, but it's allowing it to spread. As far as the mink.
Or minks.
Yeah. But yeah, as far
I think that's funny, man. Them animals ain't do nothing to nobody.
Hey.
We already have them trapped on the darn farms and using them for fur, mostly probably.
Hey, people.
I think that some people use them to hunt with too. They're actually really good flipping hunters, almost better than dogs. I got this one white dude I watch on YouTube. He uses them to catch mice.
Really?
And he'll catch fish for you too. Yeah, it's nuts. You can train them pretty easily. But I'm just curious. I wonder if minks are related to civics. I'm probably mispronouncing this.
You do not want me lying.
That's why I'm looking it up right now. I'm curious because remember the first SARS, it was being spread from the civet cats, correct? That was the intermediate host, was the civet cats. And it was in Asia, and they were eating the cats over there or had them as pets or whatever over there. And then the second one, MERS, that was from the camels. And of course, over there in Arabia, they do, yes, not only use them as transportation, but they also eat the camels over there too.
Right.
Yeah, they're related.
They're related.
Yeah, they're related.
I just looked it up. Dogs too.
Minks are closely,
What else they closely related to?
It says they're closely related to weasels, mongooses. Hold on, I might just go to Wikipedia. That might be better. Actually, no, I'll go to this one. It's a little bit better. I could just show my screen, but yeah, weasels, civics, mongooses, and they are related. All of those things are related to the minks. Hmm. That's interesting. I never would have thought. I don't know. It just made me just think about it because they're small little cat-looking things.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, they related to
But they
cat.
did say it's like 90 something similar to SARS-1. They did
Hold on,
say
hold on,
that.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Cats, ferrets, and what else are they related to?
Mongooses and weasels.
Hmm. Hmm. I could send you. Well, of course, ferrets. Shoot.
Yeah, ferrets. I don't know why I didn't mention that. Let's see,
So
species,
the
Minks.
World Health Organization has an article regarding, that came out 2 days after that very first article that was published talking about it. But they talked about the relationship of potentially other animals. You know what I'm saying, like lions, and you
Yeah.
remember them diagnosing a
Yeah,
lion with
because we
COVID-2.
had saw that one article earlier this year about the tiger.
Yeah, the tiger. Yep.
Remember you had showed us the tiger one? And
Yeah.
everybody was like, yo, how the hell do you know the damn tiger? I'm like, the tiger probably was sick. And they probably tested it and just was like, yo, we don't know what's wrong with this damn tiger. And they probably decided to test to see if it had COVID.
Facts. Yep.
I don't know. Like, I think people got a little bit too comfortable earlier this year when we was reading those other articles that was saying that, the dogs and the cats, they can't get it, or
Yeah.
whatever, or we can't give it to them or something like that. And I think people,
They get
hmm?
it. They get it, but they get it. It's just harder for them to become infected. Like
Mm-hmm.
it acts different. It acts different than them. However, you could train dog. They doing it now. They training dogs to sniff for COVID.
Yeah, that's cool that they can do that.
Yeah. So they can sniff for dope. They can sniff for COVID.
What, like
They're
in
gonna
a
have
person?
in a person. If you actually have SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, you in the airport walking through that joke and them dogs sniffing you, they gonna bark. You got that
Oh
virus.
Lord,
They gonna bark. Look, them people gonna think you either got drugs or the virus, depending
crazy
on which
man.
dog. If they
That's
training the same
that's one
dog,
thing, really.
I hope they ain't training the same dog. I hope it's not German shepherds that they're using to train to sniff. Because if they train them to do that
That they
and
could
they
use a
sniff,
better dog.
huh?
You think they could probably use a better dog?
Yeah, I think that they need to use a different dog. But the reason I say that is because if it's the same dog that's sniffing you for drugs, they tend to be more aggressive with you. Like the police, the authority. They're more aggressive with you when they think they have the potential, carrying some type of drugs through the airport. But if it's a different dog, then it's more careful. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I need everybody to back up. And then they kind of, you know what I'm saying? They kind of single it out, spread people away from and address it more aggressively, but carefully, you know, trying to prevent this host from going any further. So now they can narrow down, like, all right, this entered the airport, X, Y, and Z, and just shut down wherever it is, try to, like, you know what I'm saying, isolate the area because of that person. Especially if that,
Oh, see,
because
shit. I
people
found
like to
something.
take off. What you find?
I forgot. We're on StreamYard, so I can't. And I'm scared to because it makes you use the browser. I'm using Chrome on the browser to be on this. I'm scared to switch between tabs on that. So I had to use the little Samsung thing. I got an article here. And see, I never use this, so I don't know how to share. This is shameful. How do I copy it? Okay, boom. I'm gonna send it to you on the pseudo killer back chat. I just found this article. It's from SciTech Daily. It says ferrets, cats, civics, and dogs are most susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus infection.
Yeah, well, people with AT&T phone around my city going crazy, yo.
Really? How's everybody doing after that bomb? I was gonna send you
They
something
can't
else,
communicate.
but
They can't communicate.
it comes off a bit conspiracy theory. What'd you say? The people can't go back to their homes over there?
Well, people can go back. They had a 4:30 curfew, so they had to be in the house around 4:30. But they can't. People in the city, around the city, cannot communicate. Communication's been thrown off.
But if it was a terrorist attack, that would be a
AT&T
smart thing to do.
phone. Yeah, but the first thing you do is you eliminate the threat of communication. Now that you messed up somebody's communication, you know what I'm saying? What's your next move at that point? I mean, something
Especially
like
if AT&T is the main provider in that area.
but yeah, right there around that gap it is. But their communication towers are also down there because the Batman building is the street over from 2nd Avenue where the bomb blew up. Where you know what I'm saying? AT&T work. When I say Batman building, that's the AT&T building.
So the building that's there, like it's actually housing like the servers for AT&T, because I thought they use like towers, like how the other companies use it, and they're usually like out in the country and around and about.
It's some type of communication feed. It's some type of communication feed.
Interesting. Hold up. Follow-up question. Just to confirm my semi-conspiracy theory mind. Do y'all have 5G in that area?
Yeah, we in the city with 5G.
So y'all do have 5G in that area?
Yep, 5G working well.
Is it provided by AT&T too as well? Because remember, I don't know why you keep going in and out, Shawn.
Can you hear me? You probably can hear me now. Can you hear me now? If you can't hear me now, it might be you, but my internet was tripping just a second ago, it's saying. Hold up. I can't hear CK at all. Might be you, but my internet was. Okay, yeah. CK, I can't hear you at all. They can hear me. It's peace. Hold up. All right. Man. So species carried out based on Barcelona. Defined published in the PLOS computational biology, found that ducks, rat, mice, pigs, and had lower or no susceptibility to infection components. Knowing which animals are susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 helps us prevent building up animal reservoirs from which the coronavirus can reemerge at a later date, says Louis Serrano, a research professor, director of CRG, and senior author of the study. Our findings offer a clue for why minks which are closely related to the ferret, are being infected by the disease, which is probably made worse by their packed living conditions and close contact with human workers. So there's a chart with the affected, non-affected. Hold up. All right. Yeah, we hear you now.
Jesus Christ, what was going on there, man? It's like Optimus Prime came out and the Matrix came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I missed a lot right there. But where I was kind of getting at is that I don't know if people are aware, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was happening in America, but it's definitely happening in other countries like the UK, in Europe. These darn 5G conspiracy theory mother flowers, they're actually trying to burn down 5G towers and damage telecommunication centers that they think are putting up 5G. Like, it shouldn't be too hard for y'all to find it on YouTube. They're definitely doing that. So that would lead me to believe that's a possibility. That's what happened in the situation in your hometown.
Hold up.
Gotcha. Yeah, you were chipping out earlier before. Nah, you good now. That was earlier when I kind of cut out. I don't know if that was an issue on my end or whatever. But I was gonna say I was gonna send you something else.
No, I said we were just reading an article. They're talking about what animals are susceptible and what not, and which ones are not.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would assume anything that's related to the bats or them pangolins, or anything that was a intermediate host for the other SARS. I would think so too.
Mm-hmm. I hope y'all play the Powerball. 69, 36, 70, 23, 52. Nah, it's 17. 23, 17. The Powerball is 19. 69, 36, 70, 23, 17. You got those numbers, you just won. I said I was. Okay, so yeah. I mean, it is what it is, y'all. I mean, that's what we dealing with. We need to stay studied up on the subject matter. Like when news come out, we need to make sure that we're abreast to it. You know, at least come together and have a conversation about it, and deal with it. I really don't have more left. As far as while I'm live, look. While I'm live, let's do this. All right, so pretty much if you just type this in, you're gonna find out about all the little conspiracies. Some will say 5, some will say Facebook bans, some will say 10 myths, some will just say myths. What you want to do is you want to find the latest article related to myths. All right.
You want to find they probably got some articles on deck.
Yeah, you want to find the latest. The reason that I say the latest because you're gonna get they updating every day. They updating every other day. You know what I'm saying? Like for real. Like look, 2 days ago. All right, watch this. They're gonna go 1 for 1 podcast right here, 19 minutes. Probably be a good little show to do on, but you're gonna deal with all of this. They're gonna give you the business. They're gonna talk about them all. They're gonna talk about them all. And it's sad because our people are going to continue to spread it. And they don't know what an mRNA vaccine is. They don't know the status of COVID-19. They don't know how it transmits. They don't know the seriousness of it. Remember, this at first it was a hoax.
Yep. The evidence was too severe.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your coworkers getting taken out and your family members getting taken out, and then you get put down for a little bit, it's like, millions of people don't been infected. Like it's really kind of hard to say that it's a hoax. You can't say it's not affecting Black people because there's so many more Black people are being affected by this.
Yeah, remember.
And I feel like we're being kind of lax with the kids too. Like, oh, the kids, they're not being severely affected by this, so they can go back to school. And I think they feel like because you're not seeing too many kids get this, let alone get severely ill, that like I feel like we're being lax by just letting them just go to school and thinking that they're going to keep the mask on the whole time and the school's going to do right by, keeping them separated. And I don't know. I think it puts the teachers more at risk than anything because they'll be the first ones probably to get it from the darn kids.
Yeah, I ain't messing with that. Homeschool.
But like I said before, like people, they're not going to take something like this serious until it starts affecting their kids. Like when their kids getting up in the hospital, their kids dying left and right, that's when they'll take it serious. They ain't gonna take it serious if it's affecting them, their family, or whomever else. But because this virus really isn't messing with the kids like that, people ain't taking it serious.
True. But yeah, man, I'm gonna end the show right there, man. Maybe we'll talk some of the stuff, but as of lately, we just have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to come up with informed decisions and deal with the information on an academic level to where we actually can get it out. But yeah, we did 2 shows today, so hopefully people are becoming aware of it. Nobody's talking about it from a scientific perspective like we are. I got a text message from Unc. He was talking about General Yohana, talking about getting the COVID vaccine and, refuting myths surrounding the vaccine and things of that nature. And he was like, yeah, he was like General Yohana going in on it. Of course, it was on another channel, and I wasn't going to pay attention to the channel. I feel like once again that even though General Yohana, even though, you know what I'm saying, and I think somebody had said this dude was talking vaccines, then he wanted the Bible quote from somebody, and that's how I rock. But see, he's at risk.
Yep.
And he's in a hotbed.
Older, ain't he?
He's older. Not only is he older, but he dang near like 400 pounds.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? So he would immediately have respiratory issues. It's going to attack him and it's going to do him dirty. And he probably lost somebody close to him in the family and talked to doctors and things of that nature that expressed the seriousness of the vaccine. I mean, the seriousness of the virus to him. And he just wouldn't play with it. You know what I mean? He basically was going to say, well, I'm going to trust y'all on this because this thing has did this, this, that, and the third. I don't know. I haven't listened to him. But you can tell when somebody submits to science versus their, still holding on to their belief, but submitting to science regarding the actual pandemic because they're seeing it for themselves how real it is because they ain't even on the street corners, I don't think. I'm not sure, but I don't know if they on the street corners and doing whatever they doing. But he probably also is, because he's anti-European. And he spews a lot of rhetoric toward hating white people. That if these white people are the ones saying, you know what I'm saying, don't get the vaccine, that hey, some up with it. So it's a lack of trust. Yeah, there still will be asymptomatic people, but we don't know the long-term effects of asymptomatic people continuing to be impacted by it because you're not gaining immunity from it. You're losing, you're gaining, you're building antibodies, and then you're losing the antibodies after months. Yeah. So we don't know if this is going to be a seasonal thing like the flu, which it potentially could be. And if it's something similar to the flu, then we deal with it how we deal with it from that perspective. And you know, we just keep adjusting. We got to keep adjusting. No matter what we got, we have to keep on making sure that everything we do is appropriate for our people to, you know, be safe, protect themselves, and survive, man, ultimately.
Yeah. I was thinking about my plan. I've been thinking about this for like some months, but you know, I mean, as you know, I am working on the next 2 videos for the pseudo killers. You know, I already done did appeal to authority, so I'm taking your advice and doing burden of proof next. And then after that, it's probably going to be appeal to ignorance. And then hopefully, if I can do those pretty quickly, I want to do a video on like how viruses were affecting civilizations prior to vaccines. You know I've been saying that since December last year, but I feel like, trying to, drop all this evidence on people that, vaccines are the truth, vaccines don't save us and blah, blah, blah. I don't think people are going to listen to that. I feel like, these mother flowers need to see what these viruses were doing to wholesome, not a community.
You went mute. CK went out again. I'm gonna see if she come back. Shawn come back out. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how we gonna do. But also, why she's struggling to speak. I think Kofi's supposed to go live tomorrow. Being one of them, I don't know. In the morning, man. Early. I don't know if it's the morning. Just make sure that you tune into the Mossi Warrior Clan. If you the actual channel is your first time listening or tuning in, like the show, share the show, subscribe, hit the like button. Also, in the description is the sources to all the videos. Any video that's shown on here, the sources on there. Any article shown, the sources on there. But also our merch store. You know, our shirts, Mossi Warrior Clan, Kofi Pasha Research Team, and Broker, and Niger Valley Civilization. Our our logos, our brand, they're all over the place, man. Just go on there, support, cop something, whether it's for your spouse, backpack for your kid, luggage bags, something. Show some support and love, man. I mean, we're not going to sit here and go find you or what is that thing? Cash App you to death or anything like that. Or, just say you to donate. But we just try to continue to provide products. Also, CoVid19.tv.com, our merch store. Our bookstore, online site. Learn something. We got books. Go to the learning market, copy a book, do your thing, and kind of go from there. You know what I'm saying? Just make sure that you support the channel, man. Support the brothers and do everything in your energy to make sure that we get this information out to people. I think, this series, the Science with Shawn series, we're on series 14. We have put out a collective body of work to be able to help educate people. Even though some of the videos that we're listening to and tuned into still have some bigger words, but it gives us an opportunity to slow those conversations down. Not only slow those conversations down, but, do further research as far as the topic is concerned. So on that note, man, you know what I'm saying? It's always Black African power all day, and peace. and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They're in. They're here.